The principle of this chakra is love, both love of oneself and of others. The notion of following the heart comes into fruition here. The heart is the throne of the higher self, or Holy Spirit. So, to follow the heart truly means to follow the higher self. To follow the heart should not be confused with following your emotions. The heart is the centre. It is the Emerald City in the centre of Oz. You got there via the yellow brick road, aka the third chakra, and the silver slippers, aka the quicksilver or kundalini. Your arrival at the Emerald City means you have exercised your intelligence, the brain, your courage, and you have had the strength, aka the heart, to get there. Which is why the lion, the scarecrow, and the tin man find that they already have these qualities when they meet the wizard. This is what it is to love yourself. No, loving yourself don't mean posing on Facebook, talking about how great you think you are, boring everyone with the tedious details of your life. That's narcissism. To love yourself is to know and be completely at ease with who you are. So you're not that good looking. So what? So you're getting old. So what? So self-important snobs gossip about you. So what? The heart chakra is opened by fortitude. The fortitude that you acquired at the third chakra. Since you have the intestinal fortitude to be who you are, self-acceptance and self-love naturally follow from this. The realization that the misguided opinions of ignoramuses are inconsequential and even funny, providing they're not slandering you. It is the ego that internalizes those opinions and barks orders into your mind, demanding that you conform to the bizarre standards set by society, be they beauty, wealth, or otherwise. The heart, when balanced correctly, is beyond all that. It loves unconditionally. So if you love yourself, you will love others. It's a natural progression. That being the case, we should examine what happens when the heart chakra is polarized, starting with an extreme yang imbalance. The extreme yang imbalance of the fourth chakra leads to oversensitivity, taking offence to every little thing that's said. Now this goes back to what I just talked about with loving yourself. If you can't find love within, you will look for it without, and usually in all the wrong places. And in each of those wrong places, you will find conditions, and you'll try to adhere to those conditions, and you'll search in vain for what was inside you all along. When you cannot live up to those conditions, they will own you, and you will spend the rest of your life chasing your own tail like a mad dog. Your inability to meet those standards will torment you via the ego. It will convince you that you'll never be loved unless you meet those conditions. This leads to things like bulimia, anorexia, and the insanity that is Botox and excessive plastic surgery. Now, for men, it can lead to the need to project an image of wealth, buying excessive trinkets and cars, or whatever he feels will attract a woman. Sometimes over-the-top workout regimes. A man of this nature uses similar methods to the man whose primary instinct is sex. Unlike the latter, his motivation is love, not sex. You see, the sex-motivated man will almost invariably have a closed heart chakra because he places lust before love. That's not to suggest that people who enjoy lots of sex will have a closed heart chakra. That's simply not the case. It's more so that the individual who places sex before all else is predatory. They will feign friendship and love to get what they want, driven purely by lust. And lust is one of the negatives, or the polar opposites, of the heart chakra. Anyway, the type of man that we're discussing is the type who attempts to meet all of these conditions in a fruitless effort to find love. So it has negative effects on both men and on women. They chase without what should be found within. Their egos torment them. So naturally they are hypersensitive to any kind of criticism, warranted or unwarranted. We all know people who like to project the image that they don't care what anybody thinks, and they'll keep saying this over and over and over, making it abundantly clear that they do in fact care, because if they didn't, they wouldn't have to keep saying it. There would be no need to. Oversensitivity can only be remedied from within with self-love. The real danger of the hypersensitive ego is that it leads to envy and entitlement issues. Like in the example I just gave of the individual who tries to project the image of not being sensitive when they clearly are, the same type of people are apt to become envious of those around them, those who they feel possess the perceived qualities or have the things that they think they need in order to be loved. Let's say, for example, that there's a girl and she's overweight and extremely sensitive about it because she doesn't love herself. She's likely to look at other girls with envy, thinking that they have what she needs to be loved, that they meet those conditions I was talking about. Well, such a person's likely to feel sorry for themselves and project all of their frustrations at those who they feel have what they believe should be theirs. In other words, they're full of entitlement and envy. The envious, overweight person will insult those who are in shape, calling them stick insects and accusing them of being anorexic when they're clearly not. A man envious of another man's physique might accuse them of steroid use because A, he feels that he should look this way in order to be loved, and B, he feels that he is entitled to look that way with no effort. Thus, he becomes envious. The same is true for the individual who feels that money is the condition that will give him love. When he sees others with more money than he has, he becomes envious and he feels entitled to that money. He's likely to resent people who are rich and to cast them as villains in some unknown play where he is the downtrodden hero. But really, he just seeks to change places with those people. He is full of envy. Now, to avoid confusion, I should clarify the difference between envy and jealousy, because some people confuse the two. Jealousy usually involves more than two parties. Jealousy is the fear of losing something or someone to someone else. In most cases, it will be the fear of losing a partner to another person. Envy, on the other hand, involves feeling angry and bitter because someone has something that you want, which can become particularly dangerous when coupled with entitlement. So, oversensitivity can be extremely toxic, and self-love is the only way to truly heal yourself of it. When you love yourself, none of the aforementioned conditions apply, because love is unconditional. This is why narcissists who love to brag about how great they are, or use their kids as an extension of their own egos, and tell everyone how special their little bundle of joy is, do not really love themselves. They just love meeting the conditions that society holds up as necessary to be loved. And they act smug when they feel that they have achieved this. They're like shadows on the wall who have forgotten that they belong to a 3D human counterpart. They hate the light because it shows them what they really are, and they would rather blend into the darkness and call that love. But the darkness is the condition, and love has no condition. If you take that darkness away, they freak out because they are sensitive to the light, hypersensitive. So that is the out of balance yang to the fourth chakra. What about the out of balance yin? The extreme yin polarity of the fourth chakra is insensitivity. Now, people tend to characterize the yang as the insensitive and the yin as the hypersensitive. But yin is just another word for negative. So if you have negative sensitivity, you have no sensitivity, or at least very little. Thus, yin is the insensitive polarity in this case. People of this nature are often malicious and spiteful just because they can be. Although that's not necessarily always the case. Sometimes they're simply void of emotional intelligence and they care more about their immediate desires than what is appropriate. They are selfish and inconsiderate. These are the type of people who would turn up at the scene of a serious accident on the road and instead of trying to help, pull out their camera phone and start filming with a faintly amused stare of a child examining a jar of dead insects. People who fit into this category tend to be insensitive more by default than any real vindictive reason. The more vindictive insensitive types, who really do enjoy just being outright nasty, tend to portray themselves as truth tellers. And they'll often have a group of sycophantic followers who are likely to say things like, "They tell it how it is." These so-called truth tellers will often tell the truth, albeit with a sprinkling of obfuscation and a side dish of freshly prepared malice. But when they do tell the truth, and not just their biased opinion, they don't tell it because they actually care about the truth or to help enlighten someone. They tell it purely to hurt and cause pain. They are fundamentally miserable people, and they love to spread that misery as far and as wide as possible. This is because, like their extreme yang counterparts, they don't love themselves. They are empty in the heart chakra. The polarized extremes of the fourth chakra fit together like cold air from the north meeting warm air from the south. The storm is inevitable. The extreme yang's oversensitivity and perpetual need for victimhood is well received by the extreme yin's insensitivity and proclivity to victimize. Both get the unhealthy fix that they crave, and the storm just keeps on spinning. So that covers the out of balance poles of this chakra. Essentially, this chakra is about boundaries, knowing when to push and when not to. Love is no simple thing. It's all good and well to talk about the calmer and more nurturing side of love, but love doesn't just sit around placating people. Love is the slap in the face that tells you to wake up and smell the coffee for your own good. Love is very often about telling people what they need to hear as opposed to what they want to hear. Instead of being nice, it's about being good. So that is the fourth chakra in a nutshell. Now, on to the fifth chakra.